but I just need to get some stuff off my chest, and I promise that I won't make this too long. And I recognize that I'm speaking to an audience that may not agree with everything that I'm saying, and an audience that may not even care about what I'm saying. But I'm here, and this is my show, and I would be lying to you and to myself if I just sat here and pretended like nothing is affecting me right now. Over the last 48 hours, what has happened in Israel has been heartbreaking to witness, and I'm not going to pretend that heartbreaking things don't happen across the world every single day. They do, and it's a horrific part of our society and life. It just so happens that this particular situation hits very close to home. I am very proud to be Jewish. I am very proud to be a supporter of Israel and a supporter of its existence. And this one hits really close to home. It's heartbreaking to see what happened on Saturday. It's heartbreaking to see the images. It's heartbreaking to see the videos. It's heartbreaking to read the stories. It's heartbreaking to think about what is going to happen. It's heartbreaking to think about the death toll, about the hostages, about the families affected, about the innocent lives affected. It's heartbreaking to stomach all of this, and it hits very close to home for multiple reasons. Number one, because I am Jewish and very proud to be Jewish, and quite frankly, I'm tired of being made to feel like that is something that I should be not proud of. I was just in Israel in August. I never really publicized this, but when I took my vacation, I was in Israel. When I joined the show after Sean O'Malley's win, I was in Israel, and it was one of the best trips of my life. And perhaps that is why this is hitting a little closer to home. I was just there 5 weeks ago, and I was there with my kids for the first time and with my wife, and I had not been there in 15 years. And it was an unbelievable trip. Probably the best trip that we've ever taken. It was for my my nephew's bar mitzvah, and we were in the country, all over the country for 2 weeks. And the biggest takeaway for me, honestly, and I said this multiple times to my wife, was, you don't travel to a place for long enough, and you read certain things, and you start to develop a certain set of ideas and notions about that place. And then you go there and you realize that a lot of that is incorrect. And one of my biggest takeaways from my trip was how vibrant and how diverse Israel was. And when I say diverse, I mean a place where I met a ton of Muslim people, a ton of Christian people, a ton of Jewish people, and perhaps because of my my public persona, a lot of people came up to me, especially after Sean O'Malley's win. I referenced this, I think, in the interview on the Monday after when I joined. I was in Jerusalem at the time, and I'll never forget, on one of the Fridays that we were there, I was going to a Shabbat dinner, and someone came up to me on the street when I was walking with my family, and he said that he was a big fan of the work and the show. And as I usually like to do, this person came up to me and said, that he watches, that he enjoys the sport. And I asked him, who's his favorite fighter? And he said, Khabib. And as he said Khabib, right away, he said, I'm not Jewish. And I said, that's great. I'd actually love to hear that. And we talked about Khabib, and we talked about the Conor fight. And then I said, okay, I have to go. And we took a picture, and that was it. But I met so many people like that. I was in a car with, we went when I did that hang gliding thing that we showed on the show. The whole business was run by non-Jews, by Arab Israelis, and I got to ride in a car for 20 minutes as they picked us up and go around with a guy whose English wasn't great and my Hebrew wasn't great, but we were able to talk about things, and I was asking him a ton of questions because that's what I like to do. And he was not Jewish, and he was telling me about his life and how they live in harmony and things like that. And it just made me feel a lot better about the future of Israel and about the way in which Jews and non-Jews can live in Israel. And I left with such a feeling in my heart that perhaps there is going to be better days and maybe down the road peace and harmony and things of that nature. And then you get to Saturday and you see people at a music festival, you know, murdered. You see women, you see elderly, you see young kids, and these are just innocent people, and they don't deserve that. And that is not war. That is terrorism. That is not armed combat. That's the rules of war is, you know, soldier versus soldier. That's not what that was. And it's hard to see that, and it's hard to hear about hostages and read about it and see those videos. And I just feel like a broken human being. And then you inevitably see, you know, people defending it, and you see the whataboutism, which we've talked about on this show. And I've tried to stay away from all of this as much as I can because I know that in this world I am the minority. But I can't stay away from it today because I'm part of the problem if I stay away from it today. Not with this platform and, you know, not with important people in this sport trying to put out a different kind of message. I want to be very, very clear about how I feel and about how everyone that I know and live with and are friends with feel. Every single person that I know wants peace in the Middle East. Every single person that I know wants peace in Israel and in Palestine. Every single person I know is fully supportive of Palestine being a vibrant, thriving, successful nation. Every single person I know just wants to go visit there and have fun and feel safe and feel like they are welcome. And that's, you know, if you're a man, a woman, a child, no matter your gender, your sexuality, it doesn't matter. Every single person I know. Do I agree with everything that the Israeli government does? No. Do I agree with everything that the American government does? No. Do I agree with everything the Canadian government does? No. You need to strip that aside. Every time we talk about this thing, it can't always be, what about this? What about that? What about this? Where was that same energy? Where is this same energy? What happened on Saturday was a terrorist attack. Those people did not deserve that. And what is going to happen now is going to be horrific to watch. That is the unfortunate byproduct, and that makes me incredibly sad. I don't want to see anyone in Gaza. I don't want to see any of the good people. I don't want to see any of them hurt. I don't want to see any lives affected. I don't want to see any families affected. I don't want to see anyone die. I don't want to see anyone displaced. I don't want to see anyone taken hostage. And I don't want to support terrorism. And if you support this, if you support what happened on Saturday, that's what you're doing. I don't know how anyone could defend this. It's never been black or white. It's never been, you know, it's a very complex issue. I recognize that. But don't tell me, as I saw on Saturday and Sunday, don't tell me to learn about my history. Don't tell me to educate myself. I've learned it. I've lived it. My family has lived it. As I said on Saturday, parents escaped Lebanon because they were Jewish. Grandparents imprisoned, kidnapped by the PLO because they were Jewish. I'm not just speaking because I see some tweets and some TikTok videos. I'm speaking from history. I'm speaking from experience. I grew up around all of this. And I don't want to see it ever again. And so I just want to say that my heart goes out to everyone who has been affected by this. I can't even imagine what they're going through. I've spoken to a lot of people who are there right now, who have had to be called in to fight. Neighbors of mine are there. Friends of mine are there. People that I know, that I speak to frequently are there. That's why this hits very close to home. I don't want to see anything happen to them. I don't want to see anything happen to anyone. I just want there to be peace. I want there to be harmony. I want both sides to be able to live together, just like we live with Canada here and get along. Why can't it happen there? And I know that's a very idealistic way of talking about something that probably won't ever happen just because of the deep-rooted issues. But how you can support terrorism, how you can support the killing of innocent ladies, girls, kids, elderly, is something that I'll never be able to fathom. And I know I'm going to get shit for this, and I know that people are going to write to me, and I know that people, I mean, the DMs feel like a cesspool, and the ratio of hate to positivity is like 99 to 1. It's unlike anything I've ever seen. And I get that, and that is nothing. And it doesn't faze me or bother me one bit, and it pales in comparison to what, the real people are dealing with. I once did a video in 2021, the last time something sparked, and I talked about my support of Israel and its right to exist and defend itself. And people use that clip as a way that, like, I exposed myself. Like, that's a bad thing. And that isn't a bad thing. That's something that I'm very proud of. There has to be a place for Jewish people to live. There has to be a place for them to defend themselves and to have a safe haven because of what history has done to the Jewish people. And so if that bothers you, like I said, it's okay. You don't have to watch my content. If it bothers you that I feel this way, I have no hate towards anyone else. People living productive lives, people trying to have dreams and hopes and aspirations. I'll tell you who I do hate. I hate terrorism, terrorists. I hate evil people. Those people I hate. I hope none of you people watch the show. I hate those people with a passion. But the good people, the people who believe in peace and harmony and who just want to live their lives and follow their dreams and achieve their goals, I love those people. And I don't care what your religion is. I don't care who you believe in. I don't care who you pray to. I don't care about any of that. None of those people deserve that on Saturday. And I can't imagine what they're going through. And I can't even wrap my head around the hostages. And I can't even wrap my head around what is to come, because I fear that it is only going to get worse, and maybe the worst it's ever been. But I am not ashamed to sit here today and say that I am prouder now than ever to be Jewish, and I will not let any of the people out there who try to make us feel bad about that succeed. The people like myself only want good things for the region, and what happened on Saturday is unfortunately going to make things way worse, and I wish that wasn't the case. And I'm certainly not rooting for that. I wish a snap of the finger would take us back to Friday, at the very least. And I know that wasn't a great spot to be in, but it was certainly better than the spot that we're in now. And so I just want to say that my heart goes out to everyone in Israel right now. My heart goes out to everyone in Gaza, everyone who is affected by this, everyone who is afraid, everyone who is struggling, who is nervous, who is anxious, everyone who is fighting for what's good. There's a famous song in Hebrew called Lo Mefached, and it means "do not be afraid." And I saw some videos of people singing that song, and it really touched me in my heart. And I don't know how they cannot be afraid, but I give them all the credit and love in the world. And I just hope that this can end, and that and that we could go back to a world where they can at least live in some sort of thriving and prosperous way, and that there will be no more terrorists and people using others as pawns in all of this, because no one deserves that. And so that's it. I'm a little bit rambling right now, but I just had to get that off my chest. This is a very, very hard day. It's a very hard time for humanity. It's a very hard time for Jewish people, for Arabs, for Muslims. I would like to think that the majority of the people watching the show feel like I feel, no matter your religion, even if you are a third party. I would like to think that we all could agree on that no one wants to see people die, that no one wants to see, countries fall and death to this and death to that, that they truly don't believe these vile things that I'm reading. I would like to think that at least this community that I've helped build feels that way. I know that's a little bit naive, because we're out there, and this is a very diverse sport, and that's the beauty of the sport. But I hope that everyone can be respectful, and just remember that these are innocent people, that these are innocent lives, and the vast majority of the people involved didn't ask for this and don't want anything to do with this. So I'll turn the page now, and I'll stop talking about this. It's very hard to do that, but I will try my best to focus on mixed martial arts, and send my best to everyone in Israel, and tell them not to be afraid, and to let them know that there are a lot of people here and all over the world that are thinking of them and praying for them and supporting them and pulling for them. All right. We turn our attention to Bellator 300, which happened on Saturday in San Diego. And it was a weird vibe because it wasn't, in my mind, it didn't feel like a celebration of Bellator. It felt like the end. And 300, like UFC 300, is going to be a celebration of the UFC, and they're going to stack the deck. And credit to Bellator, they tried their best to stack the deck. Although I would argue Bellator 301 might even be a better card than 300. That's just the way the cookie crumbles. But 301 is really interesting because there is some debate as to whether or not 301 is going to happen. I feel confident in saying if 301 happens, that is the end of Bellator as we know it. Could it continue as its own entity under a new regime, most likely the PFL regime? Yes. WEC continued under the Zuffa regime. Strikeforce continued under the Zuffa regime as well. But there is some debate right now as to if 301 is going to happen, and it would blow my mind to a degree if it gets canceled. If it gets canceled, and it feels like a 50-50 situation right now, because that would be very reminiscent of what we witnessed 15 years ago, which was Elite XC crumbles in October of 2008, and then the event that they had scheduled for November of 2008, the Night of Champions event with Nick Diaz and Robbie Lawler and Joey Villaseñor and all those guys, that never happened, but that was booked. And it got canceled after they crumbled. And so I'm really curious to see what happens here because based on the people that I'm talking to, this, you know, there's a debate as to who should cover the costs associated with 301. And so I just wonder what's going to, it does not feel like a ironclad done deal at the moment that this thing is going to happen. So the next few weeks, I think, are going to be really interesting in the world of Bellator. Will the new ownership pay for it? Will Viacom pay for it? I don't know. This is part of the debate. I mean, I hope it happens, and I hope that the fighters scheduled to fight on that card. I mean, I can't wait to see Patchy Mix versus Sergio Pettis and Yaroslav Amosov on the card as well, among others. We talked Rafion Stotts and Danny Sabatello, etc. I really am curious to see how this all plays out. And so there's interest from the perspective of, oh, I'm curious to see how this whole story plays out, and I'm curious to see what PFL, which at this point it feels like they're on the goal line to getting this done, what they end up doing with Bellator and who ends up coming over. And do we see Kayla versus Cyborg? Do we see Johnny Eblin go over there and fight someone else? And do we see this guy fight that guy? But there's a part of me that's a little bit sad too, because as we've talked about, the number 2, for all intents and purposes, is going away. And it's merging with 3. And that leaves a slot open. And that leaves one less place for fighters to go to and to negotiate with. And, you know, the point that I think is missed when talking about Bellator and its legacy is that they made it to 300 shows. No other promotion outside of the UFC has ever made it to 300 shows on a national scale. Like, I know there's like Rage in the Cage and some other, but like doing what they were doing at this scale, no one's come close to that. No one's come close to that. And that's a huge success amid ownership change and whatnot. That's a massive success, and they should be applauded for that. But unfortunately, ran its course, and there's probably a lesson to be learned about who you're owned by. And ultimately, if you're owned by a network that kind of just views you as a production company, and that's not a knock on them, but, you know, like Bellator is a company that produces content for them. Eventually, just like every show comes to an end, just like the show that I work on, Real Sports, is coming to an end in December, it's going to come to an end. Because there's new ownership and someone's going to look at the budgets and say, this is costing too much money, or we don't want to be in this business, and that's it. As opposed to if you're just a promoter or someone owned by, you know, a very rich person, you're like, no, I want to keep this going because I'm growing a brand, and, you know, like, we're not going to, you know, we're going to we're gonna keep this thing going. We're gonna, we're gonna invest. We're gonna sell. We're gonna do this. It's different. It's very different. It's very different when you're a part of a network. So it's going to be really interesting. Like they did the face-off with Liam McCord, who we're going to talk to in 20 minutes, and I don't know if that fight is ever going to happen. Who knows? And where is it going to happen? Under what umbrella? It's just a really fascinating time. It's a super fascinating time in the history of the sport and certainly in the history of the promotions. But in the end, Liz Carmouche defeated Alima McFarlane. Unfortunately, Alima McFarlane missed weight, and it ended up being just a title fight for Liz Carmouche. And then she had a leg injury in the 5th round. And you could just tell the whole time that they were uncomfortable with fighting each other. And it was, I give them credit for doing it, but it was like a little bit uncomfortable to watch. Liz's story has been amazing. Her renaissance has been incredible. So all credit to her. Chris Cyborg beating Katzengano in the 1st round, 4 minutes and 1 second. And Usman Nurmagomedov, like I said, who may be one of the best fighters outside of the UFC and certainly one of the best fighters, period, in the sport at this juncture, considering what he's done. I can't wait to see what kind of competition he would get if brought over to the PFL. He defeated Brent Primus via unanimous decision. Gentlemen, what did you guys think of Bellator 300? How did you feel about the vibes? I know, GC, you even watched the post-lims, which is a huge distinction. Well done to you. I know the action was fast and furious. I believe 3 unanimous decisions in the post-lims.
Yeah, badge of honor, sweating it out. Bryce Meredith. Around like 1 a.m. my time, laying in bed, YouTube on the phone. My arms started getting tired because I was doing the lay down, holding it up. But I mean, it's all part of the game. I mean, that's just what we do.
Overall, what do you think of the event?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I mean, the production was clearly stepped up. Like they had like the WWE-esque like massive 3D like AR graphics above with like the belt and everything like that. I loved the custom gloves. Loved how it felt like it was a different type of show for Bellator, like custom scorebug. I'm a sucker for all that stuff. So yeah, I liked it. But in terms of the the fights itself, I feel like it didn't differentiate that much. Like it didn't feel that huge to me.
It didn't feel like did you agree with me? I said it felt like sort of the end as opposed to a celebration.
Yes.
There was like there was like like almost like them celebrating the history.
Like they were unloading the clip.
Yeah.
Like I'm with you. Like, and the 3 title fights, like it didn't feel like there was a ton at stake. I mean, especially the card. I mean, honestly, all 3 of them were just one-sided as it gets. It didn't feel like there was like a palpable energy around it.
What do you think, Rick?
Yeah, I mean, we've been hearing about this potential sale, merger, whatever ends up being the business acquisition, if anything, for so long now that it couldn't help but kind of have that cloud hanging over it. And naturally, when it comes time for the post-fight press conference, it's hard to like ask about the future. And when you see Liam McCord and Cyborg squaring off in the ring, or the cage, you think to yourself, is that even going to happen? Is it happening under another banner? It is too natural to kind of spin forward and start thinking about the future, and you really can't think that far in the future based on the current circumstance. So I agree with your point. Like that kind of colored the evening much more so than like we're celebrating the significance of the 300 events, which is significant, and I do believe that they tried their best in terms of some of the elements that Connor was talking about to make it feel special. But this is just too prevalent a storyline and hanging over. And even, just earlier in the week or late the prior week, I think it was earlier that same week, we're hearing about Ryan Bader falling off the card. And, we start to hear about the reasons why he was not given a replacement opponent. It's hard to kind of break away from that narrative. And the other thing I'll say is you kind of probably wanted to end the night with Cyborg, which I know you had been advocating for a long time. People know where I lie with that. You probably should have put Cyborg in the main event is the other thing that stood out to me.
Yeah, I mean, you got it just felt like you have Bader fall off. You have Alima McFarlane can't win the title, and she gets dominated anyway. Cyborg gets the 1st round finish. Usman just as one-sided as it gets. Then you also have the post-lim stuff, everything like that. Like, it would have been great had we crescendoed into a cool finish for it, but it did not feel like that.
It's a tough spot to be in. Like, Morrow's wearing the tux, and they're trying their best to, like...
Tux was great.
Yeah, it was great. They're trying their best, and everyone involved is trying their best. In a perfect world, it would have been nice if we would have gotten some clarity. Like, if the deal would have been done and they would have said, like, hey, you know, there's a new era coming and this is great, but it just left with a lot of uncertainty. Like, you see poor Liam McCord, who's staring at the biggest opportunity of her life, and like, is this fight ever going to happen? Like, I appreciate them sort of doing the business as usual thing, but you wonder, like, what are we building towards? When is this fight? You don't have anything scheduled past November. And I'm watching this knowing that there's like this internal battle about if whether or not, you know, 301 is going to air, let alone a Liam McCourt, Chris Cyborg title fight. So it was just weird. It was a weird buzz.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. Did the UFC acquisition of WEC happen before the final event?
Well, WEC wasn't exactly like WEC. You know what I mean? It was like a somewhat Northern California regional promotion who would put some events on HDNet Fights. You know what I mean? And then they kind of scooped it up and then built it in. Like, WC became WC because of Zuffa. And then,
okay.
You know what I mean? It would be akin to UFC like purchasing Cage CFFC or Ring of Combat.
Right. Who
Today.
they already have on their broadcast.
No, but you know what I mean? Like, it's not like, it wouldn't be a seismic piece of news. It'd be like,
but
okay.
I'm talking about the actual
like when the Anthony Pettis fight happened?
yes, the Pettis.
Oh, yeah, we knew it was done.
Anderson.
Yeah, because I interviewed Dana White in October of that year, and the final event happened in December when he announced that they would merge.
So what I'm saying is, in terms of the timing, right? You talked about like the uncertainty. With that, it's like a going away party.
Yeah.
You know, like there's already the clarity, like we know that this is going to be the final event. Here it is. And we're going to put on a great performance and we're going to send everybody out in the way that they want to or want it to be. And this one, you don't have that. You can't say, like, is 300 the last event? Will we see 301? Or is 301 the last event? There is that cloud hanging over it. But I think Scott Coker made a great point, and I think this is kind of going under mentioned and understood. Like, people are not recognizing that Scott Coker, Bellator are owned by Viacom, right? Bellator is not independent. Bellator is not able to decide its future. The company that owns them, Viacom, is the one doing deals, making transactions, deciding their future. So when Scott Coker is put in the position to say, hey, is the sale happening or not? It's not in his best business interest or the interests of Viacom for him to give that info or push the deal in one direction or another. That's not his place. He is representative only of Bellator. He is not a representative of Viacom. And therefore, they have to do their best to kind of, you know, make the best of the situation and operate as Bellator has. But it's ultimately Viacom's questions to answer. It's ultimately Viacom who is deciding the fate of this, and not Bellator and not Scott Coker. And he's the one who has to answer the questions at the press conference, but he doesn't have those answers. Or he may be privy to those conversations, but it is not up to him. It is Viacom's role.
It's a tough
spot. It is Viacom to. So while Bellator is having to continue to operate in this capacity, it's Viacom who's the one who's going to be doing this deal. It's Viacom, if the deal happens or if there is a deal, it's Viacom who's going to have to decide when the end is actually coming. So it's a bit of a push and a pull between Bellator and Viacom, where Bellator is the one who is the public face of it and having to answer, and Scott Coker in particular having to answer the questions, when in reality, it's not his questions to answer.
In a microcosm, that represents like the issue that he's had all along with Bellator as opposed to Strikeforce, right?
Yeah, Strikeforce was his.
Yeah.
He owned it. Yeah.
Here, he was essentially an employee with a vested interest, but a much different position. A bit of breaking news that I'm seeing on the timeline right here, courtesy of AG Fight. You guys seeing this?
Yes.
I feel like...
I'm not. I'm about to receive it with the audience.
Okay, here it is. I've not confirmed this because we're doing the show right now. Thanks for that. But according to AG Fight, they are saying on November 4th in Sao Paulo, the new main event is now your boy Jalton Almeida against Derek Lewis.
Yeah.
You see that?
Yeah, kind of a...
Wait, I thought you didn't know.
I actually had seen it.
Oh,
I didn't know what a counter was. I know we were talking Bellator. I thought we were about to get something like big and breaking.
That you'd be like, wow, because I know you
was
love
not
Jonathan
big and
Almeida.
breaking.
No, Rick got that actually. Rick got that reaction out of me. I mean, a little bit disappointing for my guy Jailton. I mean, we were getting a huge fight against Blades. We were finally going to get the wrestling and the ground game really tested, and now
Derek Lewis feels like a bigger fight, though. No,
blue belt Derek Lewis, baby. Can I just say before we continue on this, confirmed by Damon Martin and
oh, okay, all right, thank you.
So yeah,
so it is legit. Appreciate that.
Already had a bet in on my boy Jailton.
I like it for Jailton. I mean, higher profile guy, probably not the tougher test, right?
I don't think so. In terms of his style, I don't think so. But I mean, he's probably gonna get the chin tested. Another flying knee.
Derek Lewis gets back on track, and then he has to fight Jailton Almeida. Couldn't they have given him like 3?
How many main events has Derek Lewis had? So many.
Oh, in his life.
This is a perfect Derek Lewis fight.
Not enough though.
This is a perfect Derek Lewis fight. Just hop in there, get paid. Doesn't matter if you win or lose. Move on to the next one. Like, this is Derek Lewis. This has Derek Lewis written all over it.
Get some acai.
Yeah, sure.
Save a main event. Probably get grappled to death, and then just bounce back with a knockout win the next fight. This is Derek Lewis 101 right here.
All right.
I'm looking forward to that one.
No, as am I.
A little Brazilian steakhouse the night before.
Oh yeah. What about this tweet here from Nathan Diaz?
Yes.
How do we feel about this? You're full of shit. I didn't ask for shit. I'll fight you tomorrow. And MMA, the problem is you suck and I don't work for something PFL.
Yes. Yeah.
Dumbass, you do. Rematches in boxing, trilogies in MMA. You need time to train anyway. You suck. New Year's Eve is good. What is this? Is Nate Diaz asking? Is he asking for a rematch?
A rematch on New Year's Eve. Are we interested in Nate Diaz versus Jake Paul boxing again?
No.
I'm more interested in the MMA fight just because that's a new wrinkle, right?
I want the MMA fight.
It seems like they're at odds. It seems like Jake Paul is very ardent and pushing for...
Are you surprised that he's advocating for this?
That Nate is pushing for a boxing fight?
Yeah.
No, because it's what he's been saying since the moment the fight ended. He wants revenge in the way that he lost. He wants the boxing fight. So I'm not surprised at all, no.
No, but like the PFL thing seems to be a hang-up. Why not... Just like MVP co-promoted with Real Fight, just let PFL co-promote with Real Fight in the MMA fight. You know what I mean? I feel like he's getting hung up on the PFL thing.
I think that's correct, but it feels very Nate Diaz to do so.
Sure.
I think that's correct, but look, there is a difference, right, between Jake Paul has a promotion and Jake Paul is co-promoting the fight, and Nate Diaz has a promotion and Nate Diaz is co-promoting the fight versus Nate Diaz is co-promoting with PFL. There is a difference, right? Like there is a difference because Jake Paul will be fighting for them, but representing PFL. I could understand the trepidation or the degrees of separation and wanting that to be different, but at the same time, it feels like the easiest payday in the world for Nate Diaz. Like just do it, just tap Jake Paul in 2 minutes and move on with it.
My thing is just do the rematch in MMA and then the trilogy in boxing if this is what you really want. Get the victory in MMA, go 1-1, and then do the trilogy.
Plus, just to see Jake Paul do MMA and going up against a guy like Nate Diaz, I want to see that.
But ultimately, I just kind of want to see Nate fight Dustin Poirier or someone like that.
Yeah.
Oh, 100% if that's the option, and Jake Paul move on with his boxing career.
Conor McGregor seemingly on his way back into the USADA pool. That fight would be interesting.
I think Chandler deserves that fight. Just given his patience. You don't think he deserves it?
What for? What? Based on what?
Because he was
Conor McGregor picked him. Now Conor McGregor could decide to pick somebody else. What does he? What does he deserve it on the basis of what?
Promise.
I think it's going to be McGregor, Chandler.
I'm not saying it won't be Chandler, but my point is like he deserves it because what? Because
he did tough.
Yeah. Sorry.
He
he earned it on
promises
the basis
made,
of
promises kept.
Yeah, by who? He earned it on the basis of Conor McGregor selecting him. I have no problem if Conor McGregor says, you know what? It's been a while. I'm selecting somebody else. No problem. No issues. He gets to hand out the red panty night. This is the nature of the Conor McGregor game.
Which fight does better on pay-per-view?
Oh, come on. Nate
Diaz,
and Conor
McGregor.
I wonder if it's just equal.
Nate and Connor.
I think it would be Nate and Connor.
Does Nate and Connor at this point, if they book it for UFC 300, does it get?
That'd be so good.
Does it get 2 million buys?
Oof, 2 million? Yeah, maybe. There is going to be a percentage increase of pay-per-view purchases just on the strength of 300. To the point we were making about Bellator, it will be the opposite for UFC. UFC 300 is going to feel like a spectacle, and there will be people who are coming into the tent just on the basis of that. So if you throw Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz, 2 megastars on it, yeah, I wouldn't be shocked. I would not be shocked at 2 million.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking this weekend as I was watching Bellator 300, like it feels like UFC 300, it really is going to be like palpable. Like it's going to break into like the normal public sphere where like people are hitting me up that never watch MMA and they're like, oh, who's going to win this fight? Who's going to win that fight? And it's like, when was the last time you watched a fight, man? It feels like it's going to be like that massive.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Do I need to make clear that I'm not anti-Michael Chandler? Do I need to make clear that like I'm
no, I
happy
get
if Michael
it.
Chandler gets the
I get
fight?
it, but I just feel I feel bad. I kind of feel bad for him, to be honest. Like
I would feel bad for him too because the delay in this is none of his fault, right? Like Michael Chandler's been ready to go since whenever. Like he's been raring and ready, and Conor McGregor has been the hang-up. But at the same time, let's not mistake this. The reason he got this fight is because Conor McGregor chose him to get this fight. That's him. And by the way, it sounded like Conor McGregor wanted Nate Diaz initially, and then the tough part of it didn't work out, and then they diverted from it. So if Conor McGregor were to circle back and say, you know what, I wanted to coach tough against Nate, I didn't get that opportunity, but that's the fight I still want, how am I going to say, no, Michael Chandler really earned it, really deserves it?
I feel like you were in the trenches with us watching Tough. Tough diehards, the people that have been there day one, watched the whole season of Tough, we should see this fight through.
That is true, but actually, to your point, they did go down the road of Nate and Connor coaching Tough. Yeah,
why not?
That would have been amazing.
It would suck. It would suck for Michael Chandler. If you're Michael Chandler and you put your career on hold and just get skipped like that, that would suck. But to the point we all kind of made last week when we had Chandler, you have to see this through. You have to wait till you know what the situation is. So we'll see how it shakes out. But I would expect that it's Chandler. But man, if you can pivot to Nate Diaz. Doesn't sound like a bad idea to me.
Nate's focused on the Jake fight right now.
Or not.
Yeah. New Year's Eve, what day? December 23rd. New Year's Eve is a Sunday. I guess that could happen. Or does he mean New Year's Eve weekend, the 30th?
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe I'm getting into the...
Because we know, and I don't... I'm forgetting how we kind of arrived at this, but Nate Diaz is very, like, appreciative of the New Year's Eve spectacle, the Japanese MMA thing. He's trying to ride it, and God bless. I don't mind it.
Thanks for watching. We appreciate it very much. Hey, if you like this video, give us the old thumbs up. Subscribe as well. You could get many more of these videos on the channel, so please do that. We would love you forever if you did so.